Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Fandoms Assemble. We're breaking down content from all your favorite fandoms, from the Marvel Universe to Harry Potter and the wider Wizarding World, Disney, Pixar, Star Wars, Game of Thrones, and really whatever else this golden age of IP decides to throw at us next. As always, my name's Steve Oborn Jr., and I'll be your host as we continue on this journey through the magic of modern-day media. I'd like to take a moment to thank you from the bottom of my heart for spending a portion of your day with me, and I hope you find this pod to be both entertaining and informative, but most importantly, a satisfying resource for all those who love to think way too hard about our favorite movies, books, and television shows. If you're like me, you run to the Reddit boards and Twitter feeds after that latest episode drops, and you're already Googling Easter eggs on the ride home from the movie theater. I'm here to tell you that that's okay. There are others of us out there, and I hope that Fandoms Assemble can be the arena where all that beautiful obsession can live and grow. Let's get to it. So on this episode of Fandoms Assemble, as I mentioned in episode 6, we're going to be doing a Falcon and the Winter Soldier recap. Also, for all of you listening, there's a little challenge to myself. I'm going to try to do this without hitting the mute button. So, more or less, you're getting a live episode of Fandoms Assemble with our Falcon and the Winter Soldier recap. Let's get into it. So, a quick summary of this season. What was Falcon and the Winter Soldier? Well, in essence, it was the story of Sam Wilson's journey to accepting the Captain America mantle. Along the way, he's tagged with Bucky Barnes, who's going through some of his own transformations. And throughout the season, Bucky and Sam have two main adversaries, John Walker and Karli Morgenthau, with the former being a soldier who was unjustly given the Captain America mantle by the government after Sam Wilson tried to retire the shield in the Smithsonian. And then the latter being the head of an anti-government rebel organization called the Flag Smashers. Shout out to Sam Wilson. I did not use the word terrorist. Outside of those two, Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes are also tasked with Sam fighting racial injustice and Bucky fighting demons of his own. He has a lot of guilt from being the Winter Soldier, all the people he killed, particularly in this show with Yori Nakajima, and he's got to work through all that. Throughout the season, they elicit the help of Baron Zemo and Sharon Carter, and along the way, we discover that Sharon is actually an underworld kingpin named the Power Broker. For most of the season, Karli Morgenthau and John Walker subvert expectations, with John Walker serving as the primary villain in the series, slowly slipping into super soldier jealousy and madness. And Karli Morgenthau is the quote-unquote rebel, terrorist, whatever you want to call her, but she has the worthy cause, and Sam Wilson starts to feel for her. He starts to care for her. He tries to bring her to doing the right thing the right way. And all that was great, except for the fact that they then reversed that in the last 20 minutes of the season, and they have John Walker throw down the shield and become a good guy again, and they have Karli go full villain and try to shoot Sam, and she's obviously killed by Sharon Carter. We then wrap the season with Sam Wilson being firmly established as Captain America, Bucky finding peace and a new family in New Orleans, and we're left with a whole host of teases for future Marvel content. So now, in a special segment for the recap episodes, is going to be what we got wrong, what we got right. So now, to start, what we got right. John Walker is a fuck. Called it from the first episode. His fit, his helmet, the fact that he carried a gun when he fought the Flag Smashers the first time. It all led up to the fact that he was going to be an asshole in this series. So I'm very proud at calling that from the first 3 seconds of meeting him. Well, we got right number 2, that Karli Morgenthau had stolen the super soldier serum from the Power Broker, and that there was dissension in the group on what their mission truly was. So we found out in early episodes that the Power Broker was after Karli. She said she had stolen something from her. Ooh, I said she. Originally thought it was the Wolverine. We'll cover that later. The Power Broker was texting Karli saying, "You stole something from me. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to get it back." We weren't sure if it was the super soldiers themselves, if it was some kind of intel, some kind of weapon. I proffered that it was probably super soldier serum, and then all these kids took it, and that's exactly what it was. And then in terms of the dissension in the group, I mentioned in very early episodes that when Karli was talking her shit and was rallying her troops and was doing the things she was doing, blowing up the GRC, None of the Flag Smashers were with her ever. Then we got in the last episode, Carly is giving them a pep talk while they're transporting the GRC members and trying to kidnap them, kill them. I don't know what her end game was going to be there, but she tries to rally them together that, hey, it doesn't matter if we die. Let's go get this done. Our movement will live on. And they're like, what the hell are you talking about? Number 3, John Walker going full crazy, full villain, and getting fired. That was one of the only other things I got right in this season. It was clear that John Walker was a jerk from the very beginning. It was clear he was going to prove a foil to Bucky and Sam, that he was going to tarnish the shield a little bit. But when it got to around episode 3, episode 4, they had to make a decision. John Walker was either going to be goofy and incompetent, and Sam was going to get the shield that way, or he was going to go full crazy, he was going to go full villain, and he was going to kill somebody, and he was going to get fired, and Sam was going to get the shield that way. Well, obviously, as we saw, holy shit, John Walker went full villain. He cut somebody in half with the Captain America shield. How that doesn't have bigger ramifications, how they could take that moment, which was so jarring, the most gory scene in MCU history was him killing that person with the shield, standing there with the blood dripping off as everyone's taking pictures of him. And yet they still, in the last, very, very last minute of the show, they decide, you know what, we actually want John Walker to be a good guy here, so we're going to have him drop the shield. We're going to have him try and save these people, and he's going to be buddy-buddy with Sam and Bucky. I hated that. Number 4, Carly Morgenthau was going to go full Daenerys Targaryen. In a fandom crossover reference, which I hope all of you listening understand, at the end of Game of Thrones, Daenerys Targaryen, who had been the heroine throughout the whole show, throughout the whole 8 seasons, had slowly started to drift into madness. I mean, it was there from the very beginning. She liked to set people on fire. She had dragons, if any of you have not watched the show. She had dragons and she liked to set people on fire. And by the end of the season, the end of the series, we had a pivot point for Daenerys. And she was sitting on top of her dragon, and she could just go kill the evil queen who was in place, Cersei Lannister. Or she could do what she did, which was completely snap and not only kill the queen inadvertently, but to burn everyone in the city to the ground. And that's what Carly Morgenthau tried to do here. We had small instances where she showed that she was starting to become unraveled. And then she blew up the GRC and killed all those people. And by the end, she's saying she's willing to be a martyr. She's willing to die in order to prove her point. And that was unfortunate. It was unfortunate with Daenerys, and it was unfortunate for Carly Morgenthau, who, after her experience playing basically the same role in the Star Wars franchise, and then playing Carly Morgenthau here, this actress was great. Really liked her performance, and I thought that she could be a good hero moving forward, given her super soldier abilities, but she dies at the end of the show, and all we're left in the world is Bucky Barnes and John Walker as super soldiers. Okay, folks, now for what we got wrong. And this, unfortunately, is a much longer list, and it leaves a lot of disappointment in its wake. Number 1, Wolverine is the power broker, and that this was going to be the chance for the MCU to introduce the X-Men. I was very high on this. I said this in a lot of episodes. This was going to be my moment if I got this right. There was a lot of breadcrumbs, a lot of Easter eggs along the way. Thought I'd tied them up in a nice, neat bow. And we were going to have a big X-Men reveal with one of their most famous characters. That fell flat. Number 2, Sharon Carter still works for S.H.I.E.L.D. and she's recruiting X-Men in Madripoor. Obviously, it was conjecture a lot on the internet that Sharon Carter was not going to be working for S.H.I.E.L.D., that she was going to be the power broker. Congratulations to you assholes. You were right. I don't like it. I don't like that Sharon Carter was the power broker. As we talked about in the last episode, it means that post-blip, she never went to go find Steve. It means that she lied by omission to him by not telling him that she survived the blip. And it means that she took advantage of a power vacuum while on the run and completely betrayed the little bit of her character that she had given us throughout the show and became the power broker, became an underworld kingpin in all that chaos. Number 3, the time in Madripoor meant nothing. I thought that it was going to be a pivotal place for the X-Men reveal, or, some other tie-in to mutants, or was really going to have some other meaning other than being the Power Broker's home. But no, the time in Madripoor meant nothing. The Patch Act, the fact that Patch was Wolverine's character, meant nothing. The fact that they went to the Princess Bar and the Brass Monkey, things that tied into the X-Men, the Princess Bar being a place where Patch, aka Wolverine, would visit frequently in the X-Men comics, meant nothing. Number 4, that the GRC was just a government agency and not a crime front. This is honestly probably the most, surprising to me. The fact that they did not make the GRC a front for something else. Throughout the show, we had the commercial in the beginning of episode 3, I think it was. We had the posters everywhere, which were very ominous. Whenever the Flag Smashers were on screen, it was kind of like the Big Brother GRC is watching. And I really thought that was going to tie in with the Power Broker somehow. They were going to be some kind of crooked organization led by either the Power Broker or the Kingpin, or somebody was going to be heading the GRC for a malicious purpose. But no, they were just incompetent government officials who, unfortunately, the history of the United States is we involve ourselves in some pretty shitty ways around the world. And the senator from the United States who was leading the GRC was convincing the other countries of the world to act in that fashion. And they were just a bunch of clueless government officials who had to be set right by Sam in episode 6 and redirected to doing something more meaningful and helpful to all the people who were affected by the blip, both those who were left during the blip and those who got snapped away. Number 5. So my take was going to be that in the final battle scene, we were going to have Sam, Bucky, and Karli Morgenthau fighting it out, and that the Power Broker was going to come in some way and try and kill Karli Morgenthau, and that Sam Wilson was going to step in and save Karli and defeat the Power Broker because he really cares for her and he didn't want to see her die. Obviously, that turned out not to be true, because post the final battle between our heroes, at least, Sam Wilson, Sharon Carter, and Karli Morgenthau found themselves in that building, and Karli was killed by Sharon Carter, who Sam didn't know was the Power Broker and still won't know is the Power Broker. So we leave Falcon and the Winter Soldier season 1 with Sharon Carter being inducted back into S.H.I.E.L.D., being given her post back in a high-powered government agency with a lot of secrets, and no one who was there and knows that Sharon was the Power Broker is alive to tell a tale. Bartrock and Karli Morgenthau were both killed, and Sam Wilson wasn't privy to that information before they died. Okay, now we're going to talk about what they left open. Threads they left frayed. Things that they didn't tie up in the neat little bows like they did for Yori Nakajima. Number 1, all those damn X-Men references. I can't get off this. All of the X-Men references, whether it was the blue and red X outside the GRC building, which I know I said in prior episodes that it's just a common road sign in Eastern Europe, but still, you didn't need to include that. We had all the references in Madripoor. We had the GRC calling their bill the Patch Act. I don't get it. I don't get how you, in WandaVision and now in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, you keep throwing out these X-Men breadcrumbs and not paying them off. We've had hours of television. We've had multiple movie lengths worth of television where you've been teasing mutants, and they need to come in. You paid for them. You brought the bag to Fox and you brought the X-Men home. Just put them in a goddamn TV show. Number 2, no clear Dark Avengers Thunderbolt tie-in. So as we discussed, Baron Zemo was going to the raft, right? We all know that Thunderbolt Ross is the head of the raft. We also know, as I said in prior episodes, that there was this group called the Thunderbolts, which were, I guess, the MCU's version of the Suicide Squad. Led by Thunderbolt Ross, he compiled inmates from the raft, and he weaponized the good inmates, the bad guys, to fight for a good cause. So we had Baron Zemo in the raft at the end of the episode, but we didn't have him talking to Thunderbolt Ross. We also had John Walker meeting with Val, as I said, the Thunderbolts eventually morph into the Dark Avengers, which will need their Dark Captain America, but no clear path for John Walker to be paired with Zemo and Thunderbolt in the Dark Avengers. No real concrete tie-in for what the hell Val's doing there. As I mentioned in episode 6, the Val scene at the end was almost comedic in nature when she was very ominous coming in after him being fired and saying, hey, pick up the phone. We did a Fandom Academy on Madam Hydra where we discussed her twisted past as a spy in the Leviathan, which will obviously tie into her character's arc in the Black Widow movie that's coming out in 2 months. But none of that explains why you threw those things out there. Yeah, okay, John Walker's now the U.S. agent, but who the hell is Val and what's she going to use him for? Zemo's now in the raft, but you should have just given us something in a post-credit scene, something of Thunderbolt coming to his cell, and that would have been good enough. We would have got the point. Number 3, there's no Young Avengers tie-in yet. We have Billy and Tommy in WandaVision. We have Eli here in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We know we're going to get Hawkeye's daughter. We know we're going to get Ant-Man's daughter. We know we're going to get some other characters from the Young Avengers coming up in future series, and yet no one approached Eli. No mention if Eli has superpowers or not. We obviously never got to see if Steve or Bucky or John Walker could have kids. So in the MCU, does Isaiah Bradley pass down the super soldier powers through his lineage? Is Eli also some form of a superhero? I would have liked to see that in some way, not just a bunch of, quick mentions of Eli opening a door, playing basketball in the street. Like, give us something. Let us know where you're going. Don't make me come back 3 years from now and be like, oh, hey, guys, remember from season 1 of Falcon and the Winter Soldier where I told you that Eli Bradley was going to be Patriot, the leader of the Young Avengers? Here we are. No, start to lay breadcrumbs for people so they can figure this shit out themselves. Number 4, all those GRC Big Brother posters, as I just talked about and what we got wrong. All the Big Brother posters, the commercials, for nothing. The GRC was nothing but a bunch of senators who were sitting around a table. They basically turned them into the UN in the last episode. That's what it was. End of episode 5, beginning of episode 6. They weren't the Global Repatriation Council. They were the UN forming international government policy. And there was nothing that would lead you to believe that there was any kind of ominous twist to them. It was the same fucking guy from the US who was apparently a senator who gave John Walker back his shield, who was leading the GRC, who was firing John Walker, who was rehiring Sharon Carter. These are all very distinct areas of the U.S. government, and this guy, who was a senator, which should not be involved with any of them, was the head of the GRC and all these other areas. Okay, folks, and now, as I said in the last episode, we did not have a tinfoil hat time. And I apologize for all of you who love to hear my theories on where this show goes next. So as you know, tinfoil hat time, as it's been constructed in Fandoms Assemble, is a few minutes of your time where I go into my crazy-ass theories about how Falcon and the Winter Soldier was going to wrap up, but mainly its larger implications in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So for a few minutes here, please indulge me as I give you my crazy-ass theories about how I think Falcon and the Winter Soldier Season 1 is going to affect the larger MCU. Number 1, the biggest open-ended question in this show is Sharon Carter. And I called it in episode 5 that I think Sharon Carter is still a Skrull. Not still a Skrull. I still think what I thought in episode 5, that Sharon Carter is a Skrull. My reason for that: she is not interacting with Sam Wilson the way that Sharon Carter should interact with Sam Wilson. Her, Steve, were not in love, but they liked each other. They were into each other. They shared some moments throughout the movies where, they would agree to go get a cup of coffee. They'd be flirting. Steve said, hey, come use my washing machine. They kissed each other at the end of Captain America Civil War. And then that was it. Then the snap happened. They never saw Sharon again. And she's not acting in a way that I think Sharon Carter should be acting. So I think she's a Skrull. I think it's a continued tie-in. We saw the Skrulls at the end of Spider-Man Far From Home, posing to be Nick Fury. We saw that Nick Fury is currently on a ship with the Skrulls in outer space. And then we saw at the end of WandaVision that Monica Rambeau is meeting with a Skrull in the movie theater to go see Nick Fury. We obviously know Sharon Carter's ties to Nick Fury throughout the MCU. It would make sense that if she's still alive, that Sharon Carter would be one of the first people Nick Fury calls to tackle a super secret mission. Number 2, we see Zemo at the raft, and I think that that's going to lead to the MCU's version of the Suicide Squad, whether they call it the Thunderbolts or the Dark Avengers. I think it's going to be the Thunderbolts. And let's see who's been arrested. Who's the villains that they've introduced in Phase 4 so far? Well, Baron Zemo is obviously already at the raft. Now, if they need a witch, how about Agatha? We saw her in WandaVision. Outside of that, I'm not really sure who they'd tie in. I think, in Loki, in the Black Widow movie, in the other shows and movies, there's 5 more MCU movies coming out by the end of the year. I think that'll evolve over the course of the year. I think that Baron Zemo and Agatha were the first two to come in the Thunderbolts, with a possible John Walker tie-in if that's really what Val's doing out there. She seems to know about Zemo's whereabouts, or at least that he would have been the one to call the hit on the Flag Smashers at the end of episode 6. They're aware of each other, or at least she's aware of him. So we could be getting a John Walker, Zemo, Agatha team up with a couple of other people tied in there. Number 3, again, I kind of just talked about this. The John Walker and Val are together, and in what capacity that is. I really need to see Black Widow in order to know whether Val's supposed to be a good guy or a bad guy. As I said, since the 60s, Val's been in the comics, and she's played both sides of the fence all throughout, being a secret spy of the Leviathan, because that was her backstory. But at times, she was a good guy. She was a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. She was a leader in S.H.I.E.L.D. So it could go that way, that she's recruiting John Walker for an altruistic purpose. But we need to see Black Widow. My thoughts are that he could be joining the Dark Avengers, as I just said. Number 4, that Sam Wilson is going to relink the Avengers. Okay, so we got Sharon Carter doing whatever the hell she's doing. We got Zemo at the raft tying in possible other offshoots of the MCU. But now, to get to the prime story, Sam Wilson needs to bring the Avengers back together. They're scattered. Tony's dead. Spoiler warning. Tony's dead. Steve has gone back to the past. The Hulk, we don't know. Thor's in outer space. There's no one around. Sam needs to build the Avengers back up, and I think that that's going to lead into the tie-in with other young members. As I mentioned in the Sam Wilson Fandom Academy, throughout his comic history as Captain America, he joined in with some other Avengers in like a mentoring program to bring them along. As these actors' contracts expire, the MCU, Marvel Studios, is going to need to bring in some new faces, and they're going to need to tie them in an organic way. And I think Sam Wilson, being a fairly newer character to us in the Captain America model, will be a nice tie-in from old to new. Granted, he's been in this shit. Bucky has been in it since almost the very beginning too. Both of them will prove in new capacities a nice link between the new and the old. And that brings us to Bucky, who has a long wait until we get a Wakanda TV show or Black Panther 2, which we now got a title for, Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Bucky's got a long time to wait, but I do not think that they're going to leave him waiting off screen. I think Bucky's going to be tied into a lot of these shows. They basically left him as a nomad. He finished his amends. Yeah, he's in New Orleans with Sam and his family, and he's flirting with Sarah, and he's doing all these things. He's at the cookout, but Bucky has no ties. Bucky has no home. Bucky's a free agent. And I think they're going to implement him, and it would be smart for them to implement him as whatever his new character is going to be. Whether he's just going to be Bucky, fine, just leave him Bucky. But Bucky is going to be in a lot of places moving forward. All right, so let's recap where I think that the MCU is going to take these shows from here. We have Sharon Carter as a Skrull. We have Zemo leading the Thunderbolts. We have John Walker working with Val for a good or evil purpose. I don't really know. Then we have Sam Wilson going to relink the Avengers. We have Bucky Barnes, Kenny Loftoning his way throughout the MCU, helping wherever he needs to be in a bunch of different shows, a bunch of different movies. Eventually getting us, I don't know who the big bad's going to be in Phase 4. Where they're going to take it from here. Is it going to be Doctor Doom? Because we're getting a Fantastic Four tie-in. Is it going to be Galactus? Is it going to be... It's got to be an existential threat. It's got to be bigger than Thanos. We got to be gearing up bigger to Thanos because we're focusing on Doctor Strange. We just put Wanda's powers on steroids by making her the Scarlet Witch. We're bringing in a lot of firepower. We only have Thor and the Hulk left from the original Avengers. I know we're getting the multiverse. We're going to be getting the X-Men. We're going to be getting the Fantastic Four. This is going to be a lot of new firepower brought in to make a big fight. Big fight. But I'm excited to see where it goes from here. I really am. This has been a great show. This has been 2 for 2, 3 for 3 if you're going to include The Mandalorian. Disney Plus is firing on all cylinders. They continue their dominance in storytelling. Well, maybe not Star Wars storytelling, but they continue their dominance in Marvel storytelling into another show. And I can't wait to see what they do with Loki, how good Black Widow is when it comes out, and all the rest of the shows that are coming in 2021. Folks, we have 4 weeks until Loki comes out, which brings us to a big announcement. What are we going to do next? Loki doesn't come out until the middle of June. It's May 11th as I'm recording this right now. We need to fill some space here. We need to give you guys more content. We got to give you some more things to think about. We got to give you new ways to analyze the MCU and how these Disney Plus shows are going to tie into the bigger picture. So where else can we go but a, drum roll please, WandaVision rewatch. That's right. We're going to do a WandaVision rewatch. We have a lot of good content there, about 9 episodes. There was a lot of Easter eggs. You know, as we brought in here, there was a lot of things we got wrong, a lot of things we got right. A lot of open-ended threads, which were my biggest problem with WandaVision, and I can't wait to tackle that topic. I can't wait to break down Elizabeth Olsen's acting in that show. I thought she was just fantastic, and I'm excited to get into it. As you know, there's a reason why Fandoms Assemble was created. It's in the spirit of ringing your own bell. It's in honor of my father. And WandaVision, I was watching WandaVision while all that was happening, and there was a lot to it. That show was about grief, man, about Wanda processing her emotions, a lot of things on mental health, etc., etc. So I'm excited to get into that. I'm excited to bring that element into Fandoms Assemble, where we start talking about real things along with our superheroes, and I hope you guys benefit from that breakdown and from that analysis. But I can't wait to get started. I'm going to watch WandaVision right now. That'll do it for this episode recap of Falcon and the Winter Soldier Season 1. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for everyone who downloaded. Thank you for everyone who watched on YouTube and commented, who texted me, called me, told me in person about how much they loved the show. Family that I would never think was even into the MCU is telling me how much they like the show. I got people reaching out on social media. I got a bunch of people watching on TikTok and Instagram. I'm so thankful for all of you. This has been a great experience. I can't believe we've done 7 episodes and we're already done with the first part of season 1. I can't wait to get started on WandaVision. I can't wait till Loki comes out. But until then, in order to find out when that WandaVision episodes are going to drop, which I promise will be on a more fixed schedule, more timely than Falcon and the Winter Soldier was, we only got a couple weeks here until Loki comes out, so I promise I'll be on top of that more. But to find out when the episodes are going to drop, to be notified when they do, please make sure you subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcast and Spotify. As you're listening, you don't got to stop the audio. Go to your podcast app, click that download button. Let me know you're listening. Write us a review. Please give us that 5-star rating. It'll really help us be able to reach more people, to be able to share our content with a wider audience. It'll get us up on the rankings. But most importantly, it'll let me know that what I'm doing is bringing value to people, that people are actually listening to this show, that they're enjoying this show. And that's really why I'm doing it. I'm doing it for my own personal enjoyment. And I'm doing it to share all the thoughts in my head with you fine people out on the other end of my voice. Also, if you have friends, family, a parent, a neighbor, a dog, a coworker who loved Falcon and the Winter Soldier, loves the MCU as a whole, and other nerdy shit, and you think would get an immense value out of this podcast, please, it is your obligation to share the Fandoms Assemble podcast with them. Number 3, follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok. We're going to be bringing a whole bunch of new content now that we don't have live episodes to work in. I'm going to be in front of the camera more, bringing you hot takes in between episodes, but other shit that just might come up that it would help immensely. Please support the show. Let me know you're listening. Let me know you want to be a part of this community. Let me know that what I'm doing is worthwhile and that I'm bringing value to people in terms of their thirst for MCU knowledge. And again, we're going to be covering more topics in the future. So by following us on social media, you'll be the first to know when that news drops. Also, this is kind of new. Feel a little awkward asking, but I created a Patreon page. Patreon.com/fandomspod. Same place you can find us on all social media. It's patreon.com/FANDOMSPOD fandomspod. Patreon is a source out there on the internet where listeners, viewers, consumers of content can support their favorite content creators. I think the baseline is $5 a month, and that will enable me to spend more time on Fandoms Assemble. Hell, if we get to 1,000, 2,000 patrons, I'll quit my damn job. Kidding, Mom. But no, seriously, folks, that would be another opportunity for you to support the show, for you to let me know you're listening, to let me know you find value in this as we move forward. Once I get through WandaVision, maybe get a break after Loki, there will be exclusive content releasing on our Patreon page every week. We'll talk about in the future what that's going to be. It might be some content that we're not covering. If we're going to continue on this Marvel path for the rest of the year, then it might be some Disney content that we're releasing on Patreon. It might be some Star Wars content if I start to get into the Clone Wars and these other animated series, and or any Harry Potter content that drops. That'll be the outlet with which I can throw my one-off stuff on there, in which I can tackle some other fandoms that may not be quote-unquote in season. Patreon.com/fandomspod to support the show and to eventually get access to premium content, exclusive content, which will only be available on Patreon. But that's it, folks. Most importantly, please join us next time as we start our WandaVision rewatch. I can't wait to get into it. It'll be great to get a change of pace, to get some characters that I'm not a fanboy for, so you can get a unbiased analysis of what I think's going on and how I think WandaVision ties into Falcon and the Winter Soldier and the larger MCU. Please note, before you watch that first episode, and I'll talk about this at the beginning of that first episode, WandaVision will be a re-watch. We will be talking about each episode and the context of what we know about the entire show. There will be spoilers. There will be spoilers for Falcon and the Winter Soldier as well. Those will just be natural. I won't be able to avoid that. But I can assure you it'll be a lot of fun. And if you enjoyed Falcon and the Winter Soldier and you enjoyed the twist I brought to our favorite characters and the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I know you're going to love WandaVision as well. Thank you all again for supporting the show. I love you all. Go out there and ring your own bell today. Until next time.